What could go wrong went wrong for Arsenal against PSG in the Champions League semi-final, guys. It's EDA back with another video, this time covering the semi-final game as mentioned, a game that did not go the way Arsenal fans had envisioned, especially after the win against Real Madrid. I'm going to be covering some of the key details using FootMob as a basis, but we're going to be discussing much more than just the ratings and what you see on the screen. First and foremost, please go and subscribe, like, comment. This is a game that I'm sure will be full of opinions. I have mine. As an Arsenal fan, this was a game that essentially the season hinges on for us. We have no other way of calling this season a success if we don't win. And yeah, it was not great from an Arsenal perspective. Looking at the start of the game, Arsenal came in with a lot of expectation. How can you not? You've just beaten the holders of the competition in Real Madrid in both games, in both legs, and you were the better team. And you've played PSG, and yes, it was a PSG team that looks different and I think performed very, very different to how they're performing now. But you beat them 2-0 at home, and so the expectation and probably misguided, especially from me, was a expectation that Arsenal would come good, and that expectation was bred in the level of physicality I thought we could bring to the game. Technically, I think PSG are one of the best teams in the world. I think that was understood, and I think also in the understanding that Arsenal would potentially be able to put a midfield together of Declan Rice and Thomas Partey, I think they could compete. Now, with the yellow card that Thomas Partey had, and that affected Arsenal's lineup, and what they've been doing in the last couple of weeks is playing Trossard in the striker position, move Moreno back into midfield, and it's semi worked in two games against Ipswich and Crystal Palace. Now, against Ipswich, I think I wouldn't take too much from it. I think, yes, Trossard can play the role. How that impacts Arsenal and their ability to win games in the biggest of games, I don't think we've seen Trossard up front starting that has won Arsenal a big game and losing the ability and the play style that Arsenal had developed under Moreno in the striker position, similar to how Kai Havertz was working really well for a period until Martin Odegaard went down, Trossard came in, and we changed the dynamic of how we were playing. It just seemed that Arsenal had potentially lost that focal point, that they had a physical presence in the middle who could interlink with many aspects of the game. And I think Moreno was doing a very good job of that. Losing that stability with Thomas Partey coming out and putting Moreno back there, I don't think it worked actually. I know it didn't work. Getting into the game quickly, PSG, I think it was a 26 pass move. But the key moment was as Arsenal were coming back to defend, I believe that Declan Rice did a great job of marking the necessary man, and I believe that the rest of the midfield were marking space. Particularly Moreno, he needed to come back and identify where Dembele was. He wasn't able to do so, and as a result, Dembele was able to finish it expertly past Raya, and that was a goal that made it 1-0, and it was very important. It almost sucked the life out of the crowd. I think one of the key things that came to mind is that belief takes an age to build, but seconds to break. And I think that's rang true for Arsenal and Arsenal fans because not only did the players' heads drop, the fans' heads dropped. I think because of how the game was expected to go, Arsenal fans know and the players know that they don't have the firepower. The team lost confidence and the fans definitely did as well. And yeah, it was a hammer blow. And I think Arsenal know they don't have the firepower. The fans know it, the players know it. And it's a very difficult position to be in for both. And I think as the game went on, it did increase. But they didn't have much to offer. Arsenal were often chasing shadows, if I'm being honest with you. We'll look at the facts and what they have. But there was a period of the game, I think, in this middle portion where PSG were just looking like a different class. I think Arsenal were looking a little bit off the pace, and it's something that I'm not sure what was happening. The shape wasn't solid. I think again you can look to the Party issue, moving Moreno out of those central areas. Definitely that could have had an impact, but one thing was certain that PSG were, holding their own and dominating Arsenal. Arsenal never got control of the game. They never got control of the game. And that's a big worry for me that they didn't actually fully get a grasp of the game. Yes, it increased. Key moments obviously is around the disallowed goal, and that disallowed goal came from a set piece that I think Arsenal desperately needed, and one that was close, but I think on reflection, semi-automated was correct, and it wasn't a goal. But Arsenal didn't have a big enough threat, in my opinion, for being the home team. There were call outs from Wayne Rooney, a number of other pundits in terms of the atmosphere and energy in the crowd. And it could be that the crowd and the fans exacerbated themselves after Real Madrid. It could be the fact that after 4 minutes, your team's already down and you know that they haven't got the firepower or anyone off the bench or any plan B to change anything. And being realistic, I do think Arsenal have not got enough in depth. You looked at the bench, and how can you have any other thought process that Arsenal just don't have enough? And after that disallowed goal, and the disallowed goal is just one piece of Arsenal's torrid night. I think the two things that you have to think about also are the errors with those two one-on-ones. The first one, Gabriel Martinelli, I think it's so inept. If I'm just gonna be 100, it's time after time after time that he's not able to deliver in moments where he should. That should be a patterned finish for someone of his position, of his ilk. That should be a finish that he has nailed down at his age and at his experience. He's not playing his first or second season with Arsenal. He's played in that position hundreds of times, and that's a finish that more times than not he doesn't get right. And you can't help but be disappointed. Was it surprising? No. Disappointing, yes. Like, I did not have any confidence in Martinelli for him to finish that. Maybe if there was a long stride and a long run before, maybe not. But that was a position that I just had no confidence, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who was there thinking, yeah, he's not going to score that, and he didn't. The next one, Trossard again. I actually think the finish that he tried to attempt was very, very difficult. Shooting across his body, Donnarumma again was fantastic. Nothing but congratulations to him for his performance. But it was a difficult finish. Maybe something with a bit more power would have potentially been the correct finish. Trossard is normally the one that you want in those positions, and so I do give him a little bit more grace because he's finished in that position more often than not. And I think it was a slightly more difficult chance than the Martinelli one. The Martinelli one for me was just, yeah, not good enough at all. And Arsenal missing those chances, having another couple half chances that they were unable to take, it just summed up the evening. It was less than desirable. I showed you the stats. We'll go back to it very briefly, but it was a competitive game on paper. Arsenal just never had control. They never had control at home, and that was very, very disappointing. I think they had a lot more control in the Real Madrid game, and honestly, PSG made Arsenal look like Arsenal made Real Madrid look, and it kind of taints Arsenal's win to a degree. And people might not like to hear it, but it does. When you have Arsenal beat Real Madrid like that and then lose to PSG, it makes you think how good were Real Madrid, how good were Arsenal in beating Real Madrid. It does take that victory, while PSG go from strength to strength after their victories against Liverpool, Aston Villa. They look like the team that can defeat a lot of these English teams. Arsenal don't normally lose. They are a good away team. When looking ahead to the second leg, I think they're going to have to be prepared. They're going to have to be ready. I do believe that it's going to be very difficult. The movement that PSG had will cause Arsenal a lot of problems. I thought Timber would be a lot better. Going back to the performances, I did think Timber would be a lot better. He was in a lot of trouble when he did play against Cavaskelia. And Lewis Skelly, I think, played really well. Declan Rice, I think, played really, really well. Dembele, Doué, uh, played really well. The whole of the midfield for PSG was outstanding. Only one in the midfield for Arsenal that can hold their head up high is Declan Rice. Odegaard, I really don't want to be disrespectful, but I've spoken about it time after time after time. Again, his last good season was 22-23 potentially. I mean, I haven't seen that level of performance that I need to see. Actually, I'll probably say my concern started coming in 23-24 season. And so it's nearly 2+ years that I've been talking about we need more. We need a better creator. And that our club haven't done good enough. I don't think he's developed to a position where it's good enough. if I'm being honest with you. A lot of accurate passes, but not a lot of chances created, not a lot of expected assists. Impact on the game: one touch in the opposition box, 1 out of 5 successful dribbles, 1 out of 4 accurate crosses, one pass into the final third in 89 minutes of play. Why couldn't we have gotten Ethan Wanyeri onto the pitch earlier enough? Why couldn't we have gotten someone who could have, in a position up the pitch, cutting on his left foot and potentially create something that we had not created? It's a problem when your captain is a bystander, and Odegaard in the key moments for Arsenal has looked like a bystander. He doesn't look like someone who is going to change the game, who's going to rally the team, and that's left on the likes of a Rice, of a Saka, of a Gabriel Magalhaes. That those are the leaders within Arsenal, and Odegaard isn't creating to the level that you would expect. And if the team not performing to the level that you expect, there's questions that need to be asked. And again, this is probably the worst it's going to get for him because it wasn't a good performance. Moreno in the midfield wasn't good enough. I would have preferred to see Moreno staying up top. Trossard again did do well in those games. The system was looking like it was something that could work. Didn't. I would have potentially wanted to see Lewis Skelly in the midfield if that wasn't possible. It's just so difficult because Arsenal are so thin and they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be, but Jorginho can't play. Thomas Partey suspended. There's no one who can operate in that DM position to let Declan Rice perform that box to box position. Let Moreno be where he needs to be, and that's what works so effectively and so well for Arsenal. So, again, a lot of things that Arsenal need to look at. They will get Thomas Partey back. Declan Rice can play box to box. Moreno back up top is what you would expect. Is it too little, too late? It's a tall task to climb. Can Arsenal do it? I think they can. Will they do it is a different question. If you were to ask me percentages, I'll probably say you've got a 65 to 70% chance that PSG are going to go through, and Arsenal have that remaining percentage. If they can do it, it will be one of the greatest nights in Arsenal's history, and that's what you're hoping for. If not, serious questions need to be asked because this would not be a great season for Arsenal at all. I mean, if you look at what Arsenal's rivals will be achieving, Premier League to Liverpool, potentially a Europa League for potentially for Tottenham or Man United, despite their awful Premier League seasons, Arsenal ending up trophyless again after being so close, after dreaming, and fans can tell you whatever they want. Majority of fans would have been dreaming that if we can beat PSG, like this could be a year for us that will be very, very special. And if that's not the case, you're going into a very heated transfer window and a fan base who you would have thought that they're 1 or 2 players away from doing some really big things in the Premier League, in the Champions League, and once again they would have faltered. Very disappointing from an Arsenal perspective, but again, not surprising at all. Guys, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon. It's been EDA. Peace.